takes now from the analysts in the studio. Tolulokpe, and like Mr. Yusuf rightly mentioned, the investment market, even the stock market, has already received or gotten some form of reaction to the emergence of Bola Tinubu's as victorious. But what's the impact? We understand that the stock market closed in the green yesterday, and already foreign and domestic investors, we also hear that there's some bit of a response. But how positive would you call this signals?
Well, a good one. Let me start from where Mr. Patton stopped. I also have a little bit of knowledge with the mobile thing because my mom also worked in mobile for more than 30 years. And I heard a lot about what Asiwaju did when he was the auditor and all of that in mobile. So I've heard all of this, and maybe that's what has also put me on this line of understanding the kind of person that Asiwaju is. Just because he was leading at that election, even before the announcement, was when this reaction popped up at the stock market, and the news was everywhere that the market is. What that means is investors are coming back. They are not sitting on the fence anymore. They are seeing someone that has that market face, someone that would attract the needed investment that they think, someone that is ready to put pen to paper, someone that is ready to work. If you notice, when Asiwaju started his meetings, which was a very different one, his gatherings with business people, he started in Lagos here at the hotels, where he met with the likes of Dangote, the likes of Tony Elumelu, the likes of, just mention them. They all attended that meeting. I was there, and I saw what played out there. And he laid out his strategic framework and what maybe his manifesto and all of that at that time, that this is what I want to do. And clearly in that manifesto, something was spelled out: private sector driven economy. And that is something that will grow any economy. Let's talk about it here. No government has the capacity. You heard the last speaker talking about our debt. So we can't continue to borrow to fund infrastructure, to build, roads and, to revitalize our economy. So that brings you to the kind of person that Asiwaju is. That speaks to it already when you see that kind of immediate response from the market. Now, after meeting with these business people, they didn't stop there. The Nigerian Economic Summit Group is also a very strategic group that shapes the ideas that comes from the Ministry of Finance, the monetary side, the fiscal side. All of these guys, they also met in a room where he also addressed them and said, this is exactly what I'm going to do to run this economy. One of these is removing subsidy. I know we'll get there. But you see, all of these issues, you will see someone that understands Nigeria. He talked about gas, which we are yet to harness. We have proven and unproven resources. That's talking about gas resource under our ground. And Asiwaju Tinubu tells the business people and the oil and gas professionals that I'm going to give long-term, opportunities to business people to come in. Let's sign deals, build the infrastructure, and you pay over time. And at the end of the day, it becomes ours, and we continue to make our money. Not just leaving the gas and we continue to, continue to flare gas. And that's just one of it. So you see, I think he actually saw that there's a defect around the economy, and he took hold of all of this. Even the cashless issue and the naira scarcity, which we had close to the elections, it was only Asiwaju Bola Tinubu that came out with printable and notable solutions to government. One of it is to lessen the amount of transactions online. That would attract more people to transfer. When I have to transfer 1,000 naira and I'm paying 1,000 naira and maybe 20 naira on it, it's not attractive for me because I'm not paying one. What if I have just 1,000 naira in my account and I want to buy something? He also talked about the banks further strengthening their digital platforms. You see what's been happening since this cashless thing happens. Many times you want to send money with your phone, you have to keep praying. Is it going to work at this time? Is it going to work? That is what has been happening. For the USSD codes, many of them are not even working again. So we didn't prepare. That's what it means. This is the only presidential candidate at that time, who's now the president-elect, that made it clear that there are ways we can go about this thing. So it clearly shows you that this is a man that is business-like, that is market-driven, like I said earlier. And all of this points to the fact that more work will be done, and more work is expected from Asiwaju Tinubu. As from today, the work has started. The transition team has already been identified by President Buhari. I'm sure he'll come up with his, and all of this will continue to go. But the economy remains very
But
important.
let me take you back to that engagement that Bola Tinubu had with the business, community, key leaders in the business community. If we go back, to that interaction, what was the feedback like when he, gave them what he was offering?
Yeah.
What was the feedback from these business leaders like?
Good. I can give an example of the chairman of Transcorp Group, Omayo Majafo, president of Transcorp Group. She was the one that asked the question with regards to gas management, where Ashwaju was able. So they all took it. Mr. Frank Aibu, the chairman of Business Day, was also there. These are the people that asked questions. This is the quality. The CEO of Nestle. These are the quality of people that attended that meeting, and they all asked questions. They took in what Ashwaju presented, and they asked their questions. That, yeah, we have challenges here, we have challenges here. How do you think you can maneuver? Many of our challenges as an economy that we know comes from the monetary and fiscal side, not sinking policies. We see the CBN come up today with a policy. We see the federal government saying at times, I don't know about this policy. At the end of the day, they want to sink things. So that synergy has not been there. And our Shiwaju government, I believe, will make sure all of this works. Because if the fiscal and monetary side don't come together, there's a challenge. So the response, staying with your question, was commendable. They were receptive. They took what he said because they saw that he has the knowledge. Now hold me. The knowledge of the economy is different from just coming up with just figures. No. Understanding your kind of economy. Going green is something Ashwaju also talked about, saying, are you sure we'll ignore our coal when even abroad they still use coal in some places? Are we as advanced and developed to that point where we can always take whatever comes from the West, hook, line, and sinker, or we just plan strategically and move towards aligning with them? This is thinking ahead, planning ahead already, not waiting until May 29th when it will be officially handed over to. So a lot of work is being done and will be done according to what I see. And for the private sector guys, I think they're ready to play ball with Ashwaju Bola Tinubu. So far, they know that, of course, the ultimate aim is inclusive growth and development.
For example, the issue of engaging the youth. Of course, we know about the strides of many young persons in the economy and all that, MSMEs and all that. But with the Tinubu presidency now, how do you think this? And he has alluded to that already in his acceptance speech, saying he sees and hears, them all. In that regard of involving them in an inclusive agenda for the youth, what's your belief about the Tinubu presidency in this regard?
Well, let me take it from where you stopped. He harped on that yesterday when he was reading his speech, saying that youths have heard you loud and clear. I think he even repeated that line, and talking about value and talents these youths possess and they add to government. I don't think Ashwaju Bola Tinubu will ignore this, because when you look at issues around mortgage and consumer credit that Ashwaju has been talking about, if you notice in most of his campaigns, he keeps talking about cash loans, student loans. That's education. He's trying to let them know that everyone will get educated, and a four-year course will be a four-year course. You see, we are used to an act in this part of the world. When you want to buy a car, you want to buy a house, you need to start looking for money, you need to buy, you need to pay outrightly. But when you travel abroad, it's not done that way. That's why people get to own things comfortably. They get to own their houses, they get to buy new cars, which we can't buy here. We are all running to even get the Tokumbo cars and all of that. So, and Ashwaju Tinubu now clearly is telling us that I'm bringing in a format that will work. And that's a consumer credit format, a mortgage format. Something that you'll be sure that if I'm working and I'm earning so amount, an amount can be deducted monthly to pay for my house. That has happened in so many companies. Just like back to mobile again, there is an estate in Lagos here, owner occupier. All those that own those houses, they bought it and they paid for it over the years. How much were those buildings at that time?
BOT.
How much are
build,
they?
Operate and transfer.
So you see, this is a man that has been into this one way or the other when you attach all of, when you look at all his antecedents. So I see all of that working, coming up. Then tax reforms for small businesses is something that is also, I see they're also going to look at, because we need to bring some more people into the tax net. Look at what happened in Lagos when Ashwadu Bola Tinubu became governor. Many people refer to this, but it's factual, and we need to talk about it. How many millions of naira was being made in a month in Lagos at that time? Was being generated as IGR. It was less than 1 billion naira. But by the time he was leaving,
about 600 million, and then went to
about
50 billion.
50. So let's even take the figures that comes from maybe the naysayers, between 45 and 50 billion. That is positive.
And part of what happened.
I want you, Tolu, to wrap up the point you were making earlier, because you know, in engaging with the youth, in active engagement with them, active inclusiveness, you know, trust is an issue, at least to birth the economy that we all want.
I think that is very important. They need to really work on that, I think, as a team, and I think it has people around him that will definitely bring the youth together to understand where he's actually headed. One thing is sure, there are lots of programs designed and focused on youth engagement, youth empowerment. He met with the tech guys also in Lagos during this time, and I know the promises he made for many of them, making sure that their ecosystem is going to be more conducive. They're going to be able to do their business more better than they used to do. All across the federation, you see governments fixing all of this fiber cables and all of that for internet access, having small offices where people can go work. Not everybody needs to work in an office, and people still make a lot of money. You can be with your system, your workplace, and you keep making. So those are the kind of environments I think will be created, because government cannot employ everybody. It is very clear. Government cannot do that. But when you create an enabling environment, you pull your hands and let the private sector guys take charge, you see a lot of opportunities happen. Let me give you one very simple example. Look at this Naira crunch thing we've been talking about. I don't want to mention names, but have you seen all of the smaller banks, online banks? Can you see how they are thriving? Many people are ignoring the main banks. They are transferring their cash to those smaller banks, and they can do their transfers and do all of that. So there is always an opportunity.
You can even access cash.
There is always an opportunity. They won't tell you to bring your old cash that they will help you take to CBN. You see, so every in all of these challenges, there's always an opportunity. And as a government, you need to grab that opportunity and create a leeway for your citizens, for youths who are in that sector. They must benefit. That's the kind of presidency I see Ashwadu running. Let me quickly say something before I let this go. I remembered also in Lagos State government, when he was governor, we need to refer to this thing so that people will know that this is somebody that has a track record. There was issues around ghost workers and all of that those years where people used to talk about, you're not sure of this, because those days used to be on vouchers, they just write vouchers and all of those things. And Ashwadu said, no, things can't continue to work like this. And the Oracle system was created. If you don't have an Oracle number, you're not a staff of state government and you cannot get salary, you cannot be paid. And for you to get an Oracle number, you go through all of the screenings, your certificates, your employment. So you see, this is somebody that has always tried to make things work, and also, you know, with best international, with at par with international standards. Because when you look at that kind of system, that's what works out here. When you enter the system with your name, you should be able to get my data. So where does the ghost worker come from? So revenue issue is important, because you also need revenue to boost that small industry for the youths. It's important that we carry the youths along. The percentage of the number of youths that got their PVCs in this election, it's highly commendable. And everybody participated actively. But now, INEC has done their job. They've told us who the president-elect is. I think we should throw all of that behind us now and come together and still make sure Nigeria stands. Whatever people that, or if they have challenges, the courts are always open, like one of my boss will always say. The courts are open. Oh, sorry, you're a lawyer too. The courts are opened. We don't need to come on the streets to, show whatever it is. So a lot will be done with regards to covering that aspect of the youth ecosystem. Most of our youth, again, like I said, they are techie. So they just want that environment that they can do their job. Not all of them are corrupt. That's not true. And we've argued that many times. So everybody, just take advantage of the opportunities ahead. Take advantage of the internet, the positives of it. And I am sure that with the kind of people I see around Ashwadu Bola Tinubu, the youth, the quality of youth I see around him, it is sure that the youths are in for a new dawn. And of course, jobs will be created and inclusive growth. I always like to say inclusive growth, because there's growth and there's inclusive growth. Inclusive growth is the one that carries those people in that poverty line. That 130 million people that carries them along.
Development, yes.
That is inclusive. But there's a kind of growth that will be restricted to a particular set of people. That's not the kind of growth we want. Not that kind of growth that we get with fuel subsidy payments, where some set of people are getting so rich every day. But we Nigerians, we continue to pay and subsidize our neighboring countries. We can't continue to do that.
All right.